Today we're making 10 different projects with round signs. I'm Brandy and this is Making It My Own DIYs. Welcome! Alright, for number one, we're going to start off with some of this Rust-Oleum paint. Now this just has some flecks in it. This galvanized sign from the Dollar Tree, of course. We're going to use 2 of these cork sheets. And we're going to have these round signs. I bought 10, one for each project. These are 12-inch signs. I went in for wood rounds, but they did not have any. So this is the next best thing. Same price, so it's a good deal. I'm going to spray paint this galvanized sign and let it dry. And I'm going to take all of the glitter off of this sign. I went ahead and took the glitter off of every single sign the same way. So this process, you're going to remove the tags and you're going to take it off. Then you're going to take a dry cloth and wipe it because look at the mess it leaves behind. Yeah. So I'm going to take these sheets, and since they're adhesive, they make a very easy way to stick it down very quick. You don't have to worry with glue or Mod Podge because they're going to stick on their own. It's like a sticker back. So in order to keep my seal, I'm going to just use some clear tape and go over my seam so that they don't scoot when I'm trying to put them on that sign, because I'm afraid they might lay in the wrong spot when you try to finagle them around, kind of like I'm doing now, trying to move it around a little bit so that I have some left over and I don't have to do as much cutting. You can see on the top there's going to be a little gap, but we're going to fix that. Alright, so I'm just making sure that I have pushed this down all the way so that it will stick on there. Started off using scissors, was making kind of a mess, so I got my utility knife out and decided to use that instead. And it made quick work out of this. Look at that. This is very easy to cut. So I'm just going to save this piece and put it down on the backing. Just put my pieces down. And I'm going to use a little extra piece here to go over the top where we had a little gap. You can barely see these lines once you get your sign done, so don't be concerned about that. I'm going to show you how to disguise it. To make it nice and smooth, I'm going to go around with my little foam sander, and this just makes the edges really smooth on that corkboard, just like it is on paper or on wood. Gives it a nice smooth finish. And then wipe the dust off, of course. On the back of the sign, since there are holes here, I'm just going to take a little bit of the masking tape, which is the regular color masking tape. It's kind of a cream color, and it just happens to match the color of the paint that I used on the front of the sign. So it makes those holes a little less noticeable. You see the little flecks like sand? Now we're going to address the little watering can and the glove, and we're going to use these paints. I'm going to use a dark gray and a silver, and then I'm going to use a green. Put on my spectacles and grab that green, and I'm just going to paint that glove green. Now you can do your glove any way you want. If you want a red glove with black polka dots, you can do that. If you want a white glove with purple stripes, you can do that. You make it your own. That's what it's all about on this channel, right? Yes, we're going to make it our own. I am going to go ahead and do the dark gray first on this watering can. And for both of these 2 pieces that I painted, I am going to give them 2 coats of this acrylic paint. And then I'm going to set them aside and let them dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to grab a popsicle stick and I'm going to kind of mark off where these letters would end. So there's my G, I'm going to mark the bottom of my A, and then the rest of the letters, and then I'll show you what to do around the curved pieces. I'm going to use a popsicle stick over here on that E, and I want to make it is a picket. You can see that it's a picket, and I want to make it look like that. So I'm just going to use my cutters and cut it down. You can use your scissors or whatever you have and just cut it down And then I'm gonna mark and cut off the bottom. And I always like to use my sander for this so that I can get nice smooth edges with no splinters. And each of those cuts is going to get a good work over with that sandpaper. So I want to cover this with a little bit of that same cork. It looks a little bit like wood, but you don't have to do this part. You can use a furniture repair marker and color your picket, or you can just leave it off completely. Or maybe you could just paint the picket, but this is going to give it a little more dimension, and I love adding that little extra element in my crafts. But you do you. And then I'm just going to trim off, you know, whatever's left around it, and it will fit right over the top of that metal sign. So I'm going to use the tape dispenser to match the curve on that R. And I'm using silver because I don't have gray, and I didn't want anything harsh like black. I just wanted a little bit, you know, a little bit of attention on it. So now I'm just going to kind of tap into that silver a little bit and then offload it and then pounce it up and down all over my watering can so it looks a bit like it might be galvanized. At least it will make it look slightly aged, but you can definitely use brown and put some dirt on it, or you can make your watering can whatever color, just like your glove. Okay, this is how that sign is going to look. Since I'm putting this on metal, I'm going to use a little bit of my Fix-All adhesive and a little bit of hot glue. Now I'm going to go around the edge of this with a furniture repair marker just to make it look a little bit nicer. And I'm going to use a piece of this ribbon right across the middle. It's not actually the middle, that's false. Not the middle, but you know, I'm going to wrap it around there. Then I'm going to use some very short staples and just staple this down. You can also glue, but it's mesh and it's very loose mesh, so I think the staple would work better for this. Again, this is metal, and a lot of time metal will not work as well with hot glue as it does with other glues, so I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue with my Fix-All adhesive to make it give a quick cling to it. Eyeball it, press it down, and then put some weights on it so that it will dry like that. Then we're going to work on a bow. And I know y'all have seen this in Dollar Tree and wondered, what am I going to do with this? What the heck do I do with this mesh? We're going to make a bow. And I think that the cream, the green, and the brown look really good for a garden type situation. And it kind of looks like it's camouflage, doesn't it? That looks like camo print down there. We're going to make a pretty bow. I'm just going to fold it over, pinch it in the middle, and then kind of squish down the loops down to the tails, and we'll have a little squatty bow. Then I'll use my scraps of jute cord. You know, you save those because you can take them off of other projects and use them again. Tie it around the middle, and then I am going to consider what I'm going to do with these. Now, dovetailing would almost be impossible. I don't think you would even see the shape of it because of all the open spots in here, but I've decided I'm going to use a slant. A slant would work pretty good, so that's what works best for me. How would you cut yours? So now you got some options where you might want to put your bow at. On the top, on the side, you can put it underneath. You can leave the bow out altogether if you don't like bows. And I know there are plenty of my viewers that do not care for bows. I already know that. So I like to give you the option to not use the bow if you choose not to use the bow. I'm going to just put that down with some hot glue because we're just gluing that mesh right onto the cork and it should stay there. Just going to put some pressure on it, kind of hold it in place. You can also use a clamp there. These also came from the Dollar Tree. How adorable are these? Perfect little burlap flowers. And they look very rustic and gardeny like my sign. So I just chose the one I like best and then put some hot glue on it and pressed it down on there. Now be sure you fluff your bow no matter what material it's made of, right? Let's do a hanger on the back. Use whatever hanger you prefer. A little glue, a little staple is going to hold that one together. I hope you like this one. It's kind of rustic and gardeny, and I'm going to show you a variety in this video. If this isn't your taste, we're going to find something that is. Number 2. We're going to take some of this paper ribbon and some of my thrifted ribbon here. I've got some thrifted flowers, just little ends and odds. And then I've got some of this wallpaper pieces from Dollar Tree. They have a variety. You choose what pattern you like. Here's my prepared sign. And then you know how to take these off. You take the small slip off first, and then you pull the bigger piece of paper off. I'm going to try to get this lined up on this paper, and now I'll only have to use a small piece of the other one. I don't want to waste this because we can use it in another project. So just cut your backing off, put it back down, put it aside. Trim off all of that mess. You don't have to be exact with it because we're going to fix that. And then I'm just going to push out all of any wrinkles or bubbles that might be underneath. I'll take that second sheet and only pull off the short side, and then I want to be sure that I put this down where it looks like it belongs together and it's one continuous piece rather than having just a block stuck over there that doesn't match the pattern. So I love my diamond file, but I found some on Temu and they work just as good, really. So they're a little bit smaller also. Going to use that to smooth off all my edges. Then I'm going to put a bow on it because this, dear friends, is going to be a big old bow. So this is your country farmhouse, I guess you could say. And it's also a monogram. So we'll see what happens with it. See if you like this one. I'm going to have 2 loops on each side. You can see my measurement there. I believe it was about 8 inches. And I'm going to fold it over on itself. Very easy. Very, very easy. I'm going to grab this paper. And this is like a paper. It's weird. I've used it in projects before that is absolutely beautiful, and I do not mind the different textures. So I know that I want this one and the other one to be, I think I put these where the paper one is a little bit longer than the plat one. Let's see what I did here. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. You got about a little less than 1 inch on each side. And we're going to stack those on top of each other. Going to grab another piece of that scrap jute. Put it in the middle. If you fold it, you can find your middle. And then I'm going to carefully pull this while it is pleating in the middle. I do that slowly so that I get nice pleats and my bow little loops will lay out like they should instead of being all crumpled. So you know me and the bows, we got to fluff them. Be careful with this paper ribbon because if you get your fingernail in it or you pull the wrong way, they will split long ways. They will split in half. They sure will. So just be careful with that. Then I'm going to fluff out my top layer with the plaid. Now, if you prefer odd numbers on your bows, go ahead and do it that way. This is just the way I've gotten familiar with, and I just do it without thinking about it. But you do what suits you. I'm going to do some tails, and then I'm going to also leave the plaid a little bit shorter, or the checked ribbon a little bit shorter than the ribbon underneath, so I can see them both. I'm going to decide what my top's going to be and just staple it into place. Now you can dovetail your ends, cut them in a slant, whatever makes you happy. I'm going to do dovetails in this one. You don't want to cut off too much. You can always trim it down if you need to. Little hot glue on the back, and I'm going to use a clamp to hold this in place because remember, when you have a bulky bow and you're only using hot glue to hold it down, it'll kind of bow up away from your surface. So just be sure that you use a clamp until that glue is cool. I love the greenery that comes with these flowers. Are these ranunculus? Y'all tell me what these flowers are. I'd really love to know. They are gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with my greenery and just tuck it here and there before I put my florals on. I want these to be almost blooming out of the bow. add the biggest one here, and then I have a medium and one that's a little bit smaller. I'm just going to add glue and put those in place. You know, you can lay your stuff out before you start and then glue one at a time if that makes it easier for you. I do it all different ways. I'm going to continue around those flowers and around the bows. You can go in between the layers of the bows, and you can put some right next to your flowers, and you can put some further down the bow, or down the board rather, whatever you like best. And if you don't like all the greenery like I do, because I just do, then you don't even have to use that greenery. And what if you have Dollar Tree flowers with the really yucky, cheap looking greenery? Then grab greenery off of something you've already used and just give it something different. You can do that. So my top ribbon is wired, so I can kind of play around with it a little bit and put it in the place that I like it. So I have got an initial here. My last name starts with a P, so I'm going to use this for us. And I'm just marking it with the pencil because this is how I want to have it when I put the glue on it. I'm having trouble with my glue gun, y'all. I left it on too long and it got all clogged up, and now it is just being a booger to work with. Okay, so once you got that in place, go ahead and grab another piece of that cord. Add some hot glue, put your cord down in it so you got a little loop. And remember, the longer the loop, the further it's going to hang down. Then a little piece of paper over the top to keep it from gluing to my table. That'll be nice and secure. And then if you have little pieces of ribbon that are trying to fall down in the way of whatever you have going on your sign, go ahead and just tack a little bit of glue under there and it'll hold it in place. What do you think about this one? Is this your style? There's so many different ways you can use these wood rounds, y'all. Keep watching because we got 8 more to go. Number 3. All right, we're going to take some dahlias and some mums. They match my little welcome ornament here. And then I got some fabric from Dollar Tree. You can use chalk paint or spray paint. I did choose the spray paint. Just gave it a blast so that my white would be crisp from my little plaid fabric over there. Then I'm going to take my Mod Podge, put that on that board, make sure that I have got it all the way over the board, and now I'm just stretching my fabric across, pressing it from the center outward to make sure that I move the wrinkles or whatever out of the way. And then I'm going to use my little squeegee here and go over it to make sure I don't have any wrinkles or creases. You can always iron your fabric first if you prefer to do it that way, but once it is soaked in this Mod Podge, you'll be able to pull the wrinkles out. You can use a tool to dry your surface, or you can leave it out overnight and let it dry. Trim off any excess that you do not want to be in your way now that you've got all of your stuff on there. And then here it is once it's dry. Nice and dry and hard as a rock. Take your scissors or your razor blade and trim off any of the excess. All the way around. This little ornament is so pretty. I've been trying to find a way to use it, and I think this is so cute. So we're going to make this almost look like a little wreath. How cute for summer. I guess it would be good for spring too. I'm going to put my ornament down first now that I know how I want to place my flowers. And 2 bunches of flowers, these 2 particular bunches of flowers, do fit on here if you make sure that you move them a little bit to the inside so the diameter of your circle is not as wide. You'll know, play around with the placement first. If you do this round, play around with your placement first and then pick them up one at a time and put them in place, and you should have plenty. I did kind of squish mine together just a little right there because I wanted a place to put a bow. Now I wanted to add a little shabby bow here because this is so cute and country to me. Ugh. So we will be doing that. But let's put some greenery on first. I'm going to tuck this in between every flower. So in between each one, so there'll be a yellow one and then some greenery, then white and greenery and yellow and greenery, and go all the way around. Now if you choose a different ornament, then go by whatever colors you have in yours. I'll take the rest of my fabric, take little snips, and just pull strips off. I'm going to do lots and lots of strips until I have two pieces that are going to be a little bit wider, and you'll see that in a minute. These are the tails, so we're going to stack those all up together. I pulled off my little frays that were coming apart. Then the two other pieces that I have here that are a little bit wider, I'm going to stack those on top of one another, if it'll behave, like so. Putting the thinner one toward the inside, then I'm going to fold it where it overlaps about an inch in the middle, and then keep that overlapped area together while you pinch it. And then I just have a scrap here of a really thin piece, and I'm going to tie that around there really, really tightly so that it doesn't come apart when I fluff the bow, because you know we're going to fluff that bow, y'all. You know we're fluffing it. Nice, tight, just like that. And then you can pull your little loops out, and then you will have 4 loops on this bow, 2 on each side. And if you don't like this bow, you can certainly choose another type of bow or leave it off. I love the style of this one though. I have so many friends on YouTube who do the shabby chic thing, and it's so pretty. It doesn't necessarily fit my home decor, but I enjoy doing it for certain. So now once that bow is ready, I'm going to add some glue to the back and then press that center right into that open spot. Then those little loops can be fluffed out around the flowers. Oh, it's so cute. Cute, cute. This would have been cute for Mother's Day too. So maybe Mother's Day comes around, you could give somebody this. Or maybe somebody's sick and you want to do a get well. This would be really cute. I'm just using a little scrap of cord that I have to make a little bow, trim off the ends, and then glue it right over where that hole is. And that is cute as a button. Cute, cute. All right, so you can choose whatever type of hanger you like on the back, and this is how it's going to look. Something like this in a variation for a baby shower would be adorable. Maybe even a wedding shower. Project number 4. All right, I got some white ribbon and some black ribbon, some ornaments that spell joy. Here is some of that contact paper, and is the beautiful black and white that I love. We're going to have our board prepared, or our round prepared, and then we're going to cut out a piece of paper big enough that it will overlap slightly in case we're not exactly centered. Take off the backing and drop it right down there. I'm going to press it into place before I flip it. I'm going to trim it down a little bit. Does not have to be perfect. We have our ways to make it perfect. Now, if you do not have some type of a tool like you've seen me use in the other ones, grab a wooden ruler. I say wooden because the metal ones can actually tear your papers. So if you use a wooden edge, it should come off pretty easy for you. Push all the wrinkles out. Then I'm going to take the sanding block and get that nice crisp finish that we love. So you can see that I've covered up that hole and I need it to be there. So I'm just going to take my little awl and just go right here, wiggle it around, clean that out. So I know exactly where the hole is and where the top is. I've used these ornaments in a different project. I used them at Christmas time, so they still have little blocks, except for the O in the middle. Now it's going to be raised up a little higher because I'm going to use some little blocks that are a little bit thicker. So there's going to be even more dimension with this one. Feel free to use your Gorilla Glue or some type of a super glue to help hold this metal together. Now my O is going to be sticking out just a little bit more. I started with the O, so I've got where my center is, and the ruler is just used as a marker so my line is straight when I put them down. It's not glued on there, it's just sitting there. And then I'll do my Y, so now I have joy. I'm going to take this black and white ribbon and cut off a piece because we're almost going to frame it out. So we're going to cut a piece for the top and cut a piece for a bottom. Just in the middle so that I know my ribbon is going to stay exactly where I want it when I flip it over. I'm just going to add a little bit. Then you can go underneath the other ones and tack it down a little bit more. Like so. And then when we flip it over, nothing falls off. We know exactly where we want our pieces to be. And we'll glue down each piece of ribbon on the back. This is how it looks so far. I'm going to cut a piece of this plain white ribbon. Use the awl to help push it through that hole if you need to. And then I'm going to tie that in a knot. I'm just going to tie it onto itself. Make a little knot. Easy. Pull it around so that the knot is sitting on the back of the board. Then you can add some hot glue there to hold it in place. I want to give you lots of options. So let's make a bow for this. This is another very simple bow. I've used a variety of ribbons and none of these ribbons have any wire in them. So we're going to keep our loops short. If you have long loops, they're going to get floppy. So I'm going to keep them short. I'm going to grab some of that ribbon it's got the little loops on it. I don't know exactly what you call that kind of ribbon, but it's really cute. It's kind of dainty, really pretty. And you can just tie it around the middle, or you can use your plain ribbon and go around the middle. A couple of knots because we don't want anything slipping. Better safe than sorry, right? So now I'm going to cut these down at a slant. I'm not going to dovetail these. And then we'll find placement. I'm going to take that extra piece where we tied it, tie it right to the tie that we already have there. You can leave those on for a little embellishment. Fluff out your little bow a little bit. A little bit of glue just to make sure nothing slips. And then I will tack down the tails of this. Only the black ones. I'm going to leave the white ones to cover up the holes in the ornaments. So one right there, and then we'll do one on the joy. And if you wanted to do something extra on the O, you can, but I'm not worried about that. I'm going to leave it as is. Here's the beautiful, we're going to call this French country joy sign, because this kind of reminds me of French country. Yeah, this one's a keeper, I think. I really love it. And joy's my favorite word. Number 5. Okay, y'all ready for some granny chic? Grand Millennium? Here we go. I'm going to use some antique trim, the sign, and the stickers from Dollar Tree. And they're actually wall stickers, I do believe. I'm going to take some of my paint, and I think this is the sheepskin color. And we're going to put this down on this board and go all over the board. It doesn't have to be a complete solid finish. Totally up to you because we will be distressing. Did you know you can open these and pull them apart? So now the other one we can set aside for another project and really stretch that dollar. So you can grab a sanding block or an emery board and just give it some scuffing. Scratch it up a bit. And then this is the print that I chose. Now in these particular wall stickers, I have found 3 different varieties. So some are a lot bolder and richer colors. There are some hydrangeas, and then there's this one. And I thought this would be pretty for this. So after I find my placement, I'm going to put it down. I don't want to have to lift up and all that. Press it in place with my hand, and then you can use some type of a squeegee or brayer to push it down into place. Now, I'm not adding any more paint. I'm going to go all over this with that same brush that I used to paint it originally. And this is going to make it look a little aged and also make it appear as though it was painted onto this wood. Don't you think that makes a difference? I like that. So, if you've ever gotten the vinyl from Dollar Tree, it's really not that good for using for vinyl projects with your Cricut. But you can use it for other things. You can use it for backings on your projects. So in this, I'm just going to use it as a backing to show you that it can cover up whatever you have back there and make a nice finish for your project. So if you're selling something, you could use a different color paper, put on the back without having to glue it, if that's what you chose to do. We're going to trim it off with my little blade here to make sure it's nice and clean. Then we'll go to the back of the board and we're going to start laying down that trim. This is so pretty. This color matches the flowers and I really like it. I've had this for a while now and I have used a little bit of trim in other projects, mainly like my Victorian style stuff. Look at that, y'all. That is definitely, yeah, that's definitely granny chic. But it's pretty though at the same time, I think. Kind of 1980s, late 80s, like early 90s, that kind of style. But it's pretty. It has a little different flair to it, I think. I think it's pretty. So we're going to make a loop for this one. Put it on the back. You can feed it right through there if you want to. But I just went ahead and used a tiny bow to make it appear as though the bow in the front is what's actually holding the hanger to the back. A little something unexpected. This was a fairly easy project, so if you're a beginner, this might be the one for you. Project number 6. All right, here are the rest of those burlap bows. I got something to scrape with if I need it. This little house sign, got this round sign, and you can get paper at Dollar Tree if you want. How about that? Perfect size. However, I'm going to use a piece of my harvest paper, and I love the leaves on this. We're going to make this rustic. Do you know that you can use a clear glue or a school glue as like you would use in place of Mod Podge? You certainly can. So I tried it this time and the results were wonderful. I'm very happy with it. So it fits perfectly down on the paper. I'm going to flip it over and then I'm going to, sort of toward the inside out, push the air outward. Because if you push toward the center, it's just going to stay in the center. We want it to go out. Then you can trim with your scissors or your blade, whatever you want to use. Or you could sand it off, of course. But I took the bulk off with the scissors and now I'm just going to sand over the edges of it with my sanding block. Make sure it's dry before you do that, y'all. Okay, a little antiquing wax and I am going to start aging this. I really wanted it to be aged around the edges, but I also did the entire thing. You see, it got a little heavy-handed, as I do have a tendency to do. You can just get some of your white paint, because the background in this picture is white, and just kind of go across it and kind of erase it just a little. Soften it up. Now this was already falling apart. I didn't even have to use a scraper. So I'm going to grab my furniture repair markers, whatever color you like. This one happens to match what's going on in my paper, so I decided to use it. 2 options. You can paint your flowers and leave them, or you can cut them out. So I have this cheese knife, which I found out much later that that's what it is. And I'm going to use this to just cut out my pieces. This is another cheese knife, 2 different sizes. Well, no, that's the same one. I have 2 of them though. And you just kind of tap them a little bit and they'll like bite through the wood. Then you can take them off. But you can use a utility knife for this if you want to. Just be very careful. Okay, so I took those off, but I'm going to save them for something else. Grab your emery board or some sanding paper and get those edges nice and smooth where we took those off. Then all you have to do is take your repair marker, go over those spots, and this sign will look exactly like it came this way. Nobody will know that you took something off. Look at that. So they have these packs of leaves at Dollar Tree. I wanted to use leaves because that's what's in the background. I know you can't see it very well, but they are leaves, fallen leaves. I'm going to use that repair marker to make these about the same shade or at least the same tone. And I'm going to add my super glue on the back and then some hot glue here and there quickly because you know the hot glue dries fast. And I'm going to place it down on my board where I want it. And then hold it in place. You could also use a heavy book if you needed to. Once you feel like it's in place, glue down your little leaves, make yourself a bow. Same bow we've been doing, y'all, same one. Add some hot glue and put it on the top. I love this meshy stuff. This came from something that I thrifted. I had 2 little pieces of rolls that somebody got rid of, and I like it. I think it's good. So this is simple, y'all. This is very, very simple now. You can paint over your back. You can put some more paper over the back. Y'all know all the techniques now. You're going to be very, very efficient with flipping your Dollar Tree signs when you get done with this video. So there's our little rustic option. This is another one that's fairly easy to do. And you can make this any way that you like it. Any kind of paper you like, any type of stickers you like if you don't want to do the wood pieces. I just like the dimension it gives, so I like to leave it on there. Project number 7. You're going to need some type of a rope. I will change that. I'm using some deep navy paint, a starfish from Dollar Tree, and a placemat from Dollar Tree. And then, of course, our sign that we are going to take care of. I want the front piece of this, but I don't want the backing. You can use the backing for something else. So I'm just making a tiny snip, and then I'm going to put my finger in there and just pull, and it's going to break those threads that are in there. And it didn't rip at all, but you know, if you use a seam ripper if you need to, if you feel like you don't trust yourself in this. But it was fine for me. Now once you fold out those edges that were under, you have plenty for this. Plenty. I'm going to grab that Mod Podge, a big old brush. We're going to give a good thick layer of it, because when you use fabric, you can use more. All right, so I'm kind of holding it in place while I'm pulling it, pushing down over the seams where there's a crease. And y'all, this was made with that, it looks like faded spots on it, but it was made that way. Nothing is faded. The glue didn't do that. Now, if you would have wanted to paint, see this, I left it on the brown back. You can see if you leave it on the brown, you can kind of see that brown. It makes it a little darker. If you'd put it on white, then it would have been a lot more crisp. Totally up to you though. So I'm sanding over those edges because we need it not to be shiny when we glue it down. This is the rope that I decided to go with. I'm just going to take it out of its packaging. And now that this is dry, it cuts very easily with the blade. So I'm just going to go around with that blade. Y'all please be careful around your fingers, okay? Keep your hand away from the blade. Then I know that I want to put this rope around the edge to make a border. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it right on the top. Now when you do that, it's going to make it seem a little bit smaller because, you know, if it goes on the outside, it looks like a frame. So it actually increases the size. But when you do it on the inside, it kind of decreases. I know that it makes sense, right? I hope so. So I'm going to grab some tape, go around my rope here. This is a very soft cotton-like rope. I'm going to go around it with my tape a few times so that I can cut it and it won't fray. Get those sharp scissors and cut it. Trim it if you need to trim it a little bit more. Then add some hot glue between the rope and press them together. Now this is just too dark. So I'm going to take some of this heirloom white, spray paint it. Once it is dried and ready, you can add your glue on the back. You're going to add that super glue or Fix-All or E6000, and you're going to add a little bit of hot glue too to give you that quick hold, and then flip it over and put it down in your sign. Now I took another little piece of it and made a handle. So it looks like it's not actually a handle that you would pick up and move around, but you could hang it off your pegboard. You know, it's more decorative instead of just a functional piece. But it does work. I did add glue to the back with a little piece of paper on each end so that it would stay, give it a little more security. But that's how this one looks. Little nautical for you, if that's what you like, some ocean life. Number 8. Okay, we're going to use a placemat this time. Prepare our surface, of course. I'm going to flip these both where they're facing downward. I'm going to try to figure out the center by looking at the back. Then I'm going to trace it out. I'm just using the clamps to help me hold it in place while I cut. I'm going to grab my knife and cut right through this. Now, this also came from Dollar Tree. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yes, this placemat was found at Dollar Tree. Use whichever ones you like, though. Now, I'm going to do both sides that way. And then whatever little jig-jags you have, kind of trim them up a little bit, just a little. You don't want to cut in too much. And then I decided to cut this piece off because where we're not covered on the top, I can add this on there and fill up that space. Okay. So now that I know I have some blank spaces around there, if I decided I didn't want to add a little decorative piece, I would have white all around the edges. So if you don't want to do that, whatever color is the primary background in your placemat, just use that to go around yours. You see I left a little more on the top. Now I'm going to start adding my glue after it is dry. Then I'm going to add some hot glue very quickly in one line at the top, and I'll show you why. Now the super glue, the fix-all, whichever you want to call it, takes a little bit longer to dry. So by putting that in place up there, it's not going to slide, and I can easily lift up my edges and go around it with the hot glue and press it into place. That's why I did it like that. Now if you wanted to add a little something extra, we can make this look like it's supposed to be there by just hot gluing that little extra piece to the top and then trimming it off. It gives it a little decorative something. I think it's cute. So, if you wanted to do something with your grandkids or kids, you wanted to let them help, don't use hot glue, but you could use some regular glue and let them put some buttons on your sign. Buttons are easy. You can get them at the Dollar Tree, and kids love to help. They love to help. This video is not for kids, though, I will say that. But if it's something that you think you might want to do with your kids or your grandkids, consider something like this, and they can take it home. I love the little buttons, and I just matched up the buttons with the coordinating colors that were already in the middle of there. Then I'm going to take this really big button that I found, it's a white button, line it up so the bottom hole is right over the hole in the sign. Now I'm folding this over very carefully with my glasses on, and I'm going to go right through that hole in the bottom. Pull those pieces up. Be sure that you leave yourself enough room when you're making the ties that you can actually get your hands in there and tie the knot. If you need it longer, then just go ahead and leave it longer and just cut off wherever you want to cut it off. I'm going to twist it around so that that knot is in the back. Gives it a nice pretty finish. And it won't slip anymore. I'm going to add a little bit of glue here. And then I had a button that is a flower. It's so cute. It's not the same color. It's more of a turquoise other than that teal color, but it's pretty. And I'm going to layer one more on top. Now this little button I cut the back off of because it's solid and there are no holes in the front. And look how cute that looks in the middle. Yes, this one has our little buttons on it. Life is meant to be lived, and I could not agree more. Very, very easy. Number 9. If you're still here, please leave me a heart in the comments. Please, please. Okay, so a handkerchief from Dollar Tree. We're going to use this sign from Dollar Tree. I'm going to grab my painter's tape from Dollar Tree. Decide where I want to put it. I know I want a smaller portion to be white because that's where the handkerchief's going to go. And then a larger section to be a different color. So I'm just going to tape it off this way, but you can use as much space as you want to on yours. Now once I have that pressed into place, I'm going to put my wicker white up here on the top. Any white would work though. I just like white underneath, I just do. Now to go over my edges, rather than using Mod Podge this time, I saw my friends Trish and Kay do this on a wood round that they did. So I wanted to try it. And y'all, the edge is so pretty and clean. Look at that. Not one skip or break. Oh, thank you, ladies. I know y'all watch my videos, so thank you very much for that. Now, once it is completely dry, I'm going to grab my tape, put it over, leave a tiny, tiny bit of that white that also came from them, and then I'm going to go over the top with this beautiful blue. This is chalk paint, but you can definitely use acrylic. The good thing about the chalk paint is it takes one coat. Once that's on there, it's still wet. I am going to carefully peel off the tape. I know some people wait until it's completely dry, and that's totally up to you. Pull it off when it's wet, and then dry it really well. So now when we put this on, all the white in the print is going to show up beautifully. It's going to be very crisp. I'll grab that Mod Podge. We're using fabric, so again, you can go a little more heavy-handed than we did on the paper. And put this, I'm going to line it up with that line, and put this beautiful piece down. If you can't find this at your Dollar Tree with the popsicle print, they do also have it in a scarf. So you could definitely use the scarf. It's thinner, but you can work with it. Now I'm going to cut the bulk of it off just so it's a little bit easier to work with. We'll save that because you can use it for something else. Get my Mod Podge all the way to the edges, y'all, all the way past the edge so that it is sealed on your edges. Then I'm going to make sure I go over my seam, and then I'll paint the entire bottom that's blue in the same matte Mod Podge so that the finish is continuous through the whole sign. Once it's dry, go ahead and trim off your extra. You could also use the sander for that. And we're going to grab some beautiful Patriotic ribbon from Dollar Tree. These are not wired, no worries. I'm going to start off with the little star pattern because I think it looks good. I'm going to fray it a bit, and then we're going to wrap it right around. It's going to slightly overlap the printed section, but be more onto the blue section, if that makes sense to you. Put some hot glue on there, lock it into place, and then this is how it will look like that. I know that I want to add a bow on this one, so I'm going to cut this down where I have 3, they almost look like wreaths or circles, 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Do the same thing here, the same length. I'm going to come in here with these stripes, and we're going to do those a little bit shorter. We'll use 2 of those. Then I'm going to add some blue and white polka dot ribbon that also came from Dollar Tree. And then I'll add some pieces of the ribbon that I cut in half. That piece right there, we're going to use pieces of that. Dovetail your ends. On the thinner pieces, you don't necessarily have to dovetail your ends. You could cut those at a slant if you wanted to, but I managed, and I think it looks good. So we're just going to layer these up, crisscross, crisscross. I'm just using the same patterns here to make my crisscross. I'm going to grab that stack, flip it over on top of a piece of jute, and just like I did before, you're going to start your tie, and then you're going to hold on to your ribbon and make sure you've got nice even little sections that are bunched up and that it is not completely flipped over. You want them to kind of pleat together. You want to definitely put a couple of knots in this to hold it all in place, and then you can pull your little tail pieces out so that they are nice and crispy and pretty. Cut your excess off because we'll be gluing this down instead. Decide the best place for you to put your little bow. Look at all these options. I'm going to put mine off to the side here, hold it in place, And then I'm just going to go ahead while my hands are already there holding it in place and fluff out all those beautiful little dovetailed ends. I'm going to pull them up. It's a thick ribbon, so I'll pull them up and kind of play with them and flex them out so that they will stay in place. Now I'm going to make a hanger with the polka dots, just so we have a little more of that in there. This is just a little silk-like ribbon. I'm just going to double it onto itself as long as you want your hanger to be. Then once I know where I want it, I'm going to hold my hand into place, put down some hot glue, and then press it in place. You want to be sure you let your hangers cool before you hang anything on them because they will pull loose. Now, the cherry on the top for this one, because there's a cherry on that ice cream, is just a little random bead that I saved. And I think that did the trick. Here is the patriotic sign. And by all means, if y'all can find the wood rounds, grab those instead. You know, we at my house, we just make it work. We make it work. And number 10. All right, so this is going to be beachy. I found this beautiful, I think it's a curtain tie. We're going to use it. Going to use a little random piece of wood, some more of that rope, a white piece of construction paper, and a wood round. I'm going to trace out a circle. We're going to go about ½ an inch outside of the circle because we want to make a platform for the rope this time to make it a little bigger looking. I'm going to add the glue right in the middle to start with, and then press it in place, and then I'll lift up and work within stripes going from the inside outward and then around the edges wherever it might need to be. Here's a hanging sign from Dollar Tree. I'm going to pull all those off, and now you have 3 pieces to work with. I'm going to choose which one I like the best, put it aside, and then this time when we put the rope down, you can put that rope where it's overlapping onto your sign and that piece of paper. So it's actually beside it instead of on top of it. And this is going to give it a bigger profile or footprint. It's going to be a little bit bigger, a little more bang for your buck. You can certainly paint the inside if you like to paint the inside, but I like that it is brown and I'm leaving it like that. Something simple for y'all. This is very simple. Same process with cutting that rope, tucking it in, adding some hot glue, keep it in place. You can then cut off the tape if you like. I have chosen my print. I would have loved a seahorse if I had him. Now I know the print is not exactly in the middle of what it is sitting on, but that's okay. That's okay. Everything is not going to be perfect. We're good with that. I'm going to add some hot glue in this little, it's like a wooden wheel, but we're going to use that to hang it. Make it look a little richer, a little more substantial. Then I'm going to add this with some hot glue just to the back and use it as a tassel. You can cut off the longer pieces and use it for something else if you would like. Really make sure you get it secured in place before you do that. So a little piece of construction paper is going to help that out. You can trim off what you don't need. I'm going to grab a piece of jute, go right through that hole. I'm going to tie myself a little knot up there so that we will have a hanger. And I don't mind the knot showing on this one. It's nautical, and yeah, I want it to look that way. I like that. Do you like this one with the tassel? A little something different, huh? Definitely a little something different. I hope that you have found something in this video that has brought you inspiration and joy. I would love it if you would give me a thumbs up, hit that bell for notifications once you have subscribed to my channel, because we are all about budget-friendly DIYs on this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!